Welcome back into the Pig Trail Show, and welcome to another Arkansas football recruiting report. Otis Kirk and Jacob Morris with you, joined by a special guest today, Fayetteville High School 2027 linebacker Will Caston. Will, thanks so much for joining the show.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, of course. Will, big summer for you. Picked up the Arkansas offer this summer. You know, obviously with the family connections of your dad playing for the Razorbacks. I know you've been asked about it plenty, but what did that mean for you to get that offer from Sam Pitman at the camp?
It meant a whole lot just because I grew up in Fayetteville. I was born here, lived here my whole life, and I went to all the games with my dad growing up. And just being able to hear all the things that he did and all the stories that people have about him, that was always cool. So it was always kind of, because if you grow up in Arkansas, then playing for the Razorbacks is the dream. So it was always kind of cool. And whenever I actually got that opportunity, I mean, I couldn't have been any happier.
Yeah, describe what that was like at the camp when that happened. Did you expect it to happen at the camp? And, you know, that going up, I loved the anecdote of Coach Pitman pulling up on the golf cart. Describe how all that went down. How'd that go for
Yeah,
you?
it's actually a funny story. We were actually playing, and I turned around, looked behind me, and Coach Pittman and my dad are just riding back and forth on the golf cart on the practice field. It was pretty funny. So I went to the camp the Saturday. The 7-on-7 was on that Wednesday. So the Saturday beforehand, I went to the camp, and I did pretty good. I got to kind of talk to all the coaches a little bit, and I had a pretty good performance. So after I didn't get the offer that Saturday, I kind of knew that it was probably coming. And so that Wednesday, they caught me off guard though, but I was definitely excited to get it. It meant a whole lot. Just I got to celebrate that moment with my teammates and some of the parents, and my parents were there. So it was definitely a big deal. And I just enjoyed that experience a whole lot.
How special was it for your family? You know, your dad, your parents, all the above, for that to happen?
Definitely. It was pretty special for my dad, for my mom. They were both really excited. I think my dad was probably the most excited out of anybody, though, just for that opportunity. But he's always made it known to me that whenever you start getting offers and start getting in the recruiting process, you make the decision and you go wherever I go. What I did back whenever I played doesn't have any effect on you. And he always made it known that it's your recruiting process and you kind of get to do whatever you want to. But he was definitely excited for sure, though.
Describe your playing style for Arkansas fans. You know, what type of linebacker are you? What type of play style do you bring to the field?
Oh, I'm definitely a speed linebacker, fast, sideline to sideline is definitely my bag. Just because I'm so fast and so dynamic on the football field, I can make pretty much any play. I'm also a leader for our defense, for our team. I like that aspect of it at that linebacker position. And I'm also a downhill guy. I like to come downhill and hit, fill gaps up pretty good. So those are definitely things that I'm pretty good at.
Otis, I'll hop in with a few more later, but you can take over.
So I was fortunate enough to be standing there when you got offered. I was just watching you guys play, and I looked over there and I saw a big gathering of people, and I said, "I think Will's getting offered." So yeah, I can tell you guys were really excited about that. And you're right, your dad was really pumped about it. But yeah, I was like 10 feet away from you.
Yes,
I
sir.
just watched you guys play. Just you went to that, like you said. I was at the camp that Saturday also when you were there. Just what did you do well at the camp that kind of got you thinking you were going to get offered the next one? And just I know you talked about that a little bit with Jacob. But what do you feel like you did well at the camp that really first got their attention? Maybe.
So I would say the first thing that definitely got their attention was whenever we were in the 40, we were in the 40 and did all those drills and stuff before the camp really even started. So I ran a 4.5 on my
Mm.
first attempt, a 4.5 flat. And so I was feeling pretty good. I thought I could maybe get a 4.4, but on the second one, I ran a 4.5 flat again. But being at my height and weight and just my position, I still think that was pretty good. And that impressed them, especially because I'm only a junior. So I think that's what kind of started it off. And then they had their eye on me kind of after that. And then just the drill work. And whenever we were showing off our ability in the linebacker individual drills, I feel like I performed the best. And I think that really got their attention too.
You're one of three players on Fayetteville, at least three that I know of, that's got an offer to Arkansas. Just talk about what it means to be have teammates that also may go to the same college. Not that you're necessarily going to Arkansas, but I mean, one of them's already committed to Arkansas, but a chance for maybe three of you guys to go to the same college if it works out that way. What does that mean to you, man?
I mean, that would be pretty cool just considering that we're all teammates. And it's kind of crazy because that means that we can all push each other, not only in high school while we're still together playing, be leaders, be impact players for our team. But whenever we get to college, if that were to happen, since we already have
Mhm.
that good relationship, I think we could turn it into something even bigger once we get to college. But with those two guys that have offers, Kendrick Williams and Hank Hendricks. They're obviously, I have a good relationship with both of them. Me and Hank are in the same grade, so we got 2 more years left. And then whenever Kendrick came in last year, he was an impact player. But just being able to connect with those guys, me and Kendrick are both on the defense together, and we compete against Hank every single day. So iron sharpens iron. I think that us three make each other better and then make the team better too.
Oh, what's been your impressions of Hank, who moved in, prior to this season, new quarterback? What's been your impressions of him?
My impression of him is that obviously he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country, best quarterback in the state. And whenever he moved in, he was just an automatic leader. You could tell that he was something special. And there's not a throw that he can't make. There's not a read he can't make. There's really not anything he can't do on a football field. And so just having that come in and be a leader off rip was obviously something that we were all very impressed with. How he was able to kind of come in and lead throughout the spring, throughout the summer, fall camp, just all that stuff. We've all been impressed with it, and we're just so happy to have him. I know I'm happy to have him, so it's good.
What's your impressions of Travis Williams, the linebacker coach and defensive coordinator over there, who would be your position coach if you went to Arkansas?
Coach T, I think the thing that sticks out to me the most is all of his players want to play for him, and everybody around him wants to be around him. And he just has that energy. That's all you hear about with Coach T. Will is the energy. He's electric. He's ready to go all the time. So I think he's the best defensive coordinator in college football. He's obviously a linebacker coach. He played linebacker in college. So just having that, everything you could want in a coach, Coach T. Will is. So playing for him would obviously that would be pretty cool.
I asked you the day you got offered. I asked you if anybody called you Skull yet, like they did your dad, because he used to break helmets over there. Man, the nickname Skull. Just talk about your dad's stories you've heard about him. Busting some helmets and stuff. Man, wild out there.
I've heard all kinds of stuff that he used to just run people over. That you didn't want to see him come in. That he was just big, buff. He was probably about 250 pounds of just straight muscle. I've seen some pictures of him, and his traps were bigger than most people's biceps. So he was definitely, they called him Big Mar for a reason. And that was obviously, he was a unit back then. And I've actually seen, there are some videos of him from games whenever he played on YouTube. I've got to watch some of them, and I've seen him lay some people out. So I don't know if he could lay me out coming through A-gap, because I think I'd be too fast for him. But if he got a hold of me, then it wouldn't be too good for me for sure.
I'll tell you what, most of those stories are probably true. Practice were open back then, so I got to watch all the practice back then. And when your dad was there, my son was there and stuff, teammates. But they're probably true, because man, he was a wrecking ball on your field, man. I mean,
yes,
complete wrecking ball. If there was one word to describe your game, just one word, what would it be, man? I mean, just one word to describe how you play linebacker.
Electric is what I would say. Electric. Just because obviously the speed that comes with it. If you see me on the field, I think I'm a leader. I think that I lead our guys very well. And just the dynamic and tenacious play style that I like to play with, I think electric is kind of just the word that describes me the best.
I asked you about T. Will, but also you mentioned Sam Pitman was with your dad earlier. What's your thoughts about Sam Pitman?
Obviously, he came into Arkansas and had the whole state excited. The way he turned the program around from what they were has made several bowl games. He's won every bowl game he's been in. Yeah. So I think he's a very successful coach. He's a great football coach, and he really has the whole state behind his back, I think. And I think he's a phenomenal football coach.
I know you're making your dad. You said your dad told you to make your own decision. How hard would it be to tell your dad in Arkansas no, though? If you did, how hard would that be, man? Be honest.
It might not be. I think it'd be hard for everybody else because everybody else wants it. But as far as my dad goes, like I said earlier, he always, like, even whenever I was just little, I used to talk about him about playing college football. He was always like, if you want to go to Arkansas, then I want that for you, and I'm on board for it. But wherever you want to go, whatever decision you want to make, like, that's up to you. Don't let my legacy and what I did impact your decision, because it's your football career, not mine. But obviously, having him doing what he did, then it would be, I don't know. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's good advice, though, because you're the one that's going to have to spend the 3, 4, 5 years there busting your butt, doing the stuff. So that's good advice from your dad. Fayetteville High School this season. You guys got a good team. Uh, what's your expectation for the season, man? I mean, for the Fayetteville High School Bulldog Purple Dogs.
Anytime you play for Fayetteville, Fayetteville is always a contender to win a state championship going in every year. We all know that. And it starts with our coaches. Coach Dick, I'll start with him. I mean, obviously, he's one of the best coaches in the state. He's the best coach in the state, in my opinion. By the way, he interacts with all of us, what he does. You know, we always have a good time with Coach Dick. If you're not careful, you're going to get a couple of shots thrown at you if you're standing around for too long. So you got to be careful. But we all love Coach Dick. We love all of our coaches, offensive and defensive. And just from a defensive perspective, too, Coach Davis, our defensive coordinator, he puts in so much work to make sure that we're prepared to go into a game, scout and report. He'll stay up late working on that. We're in the film. We're doing all this and that. So our coaches, offensively and defensively, have us really, really prepared. And if you're not prepared going into a Friday night at Fayetteville High, then that's on you, because our coaches make sure that we're locked in and we're ready to go in all aspects of the game.
You told me before we went on you were really pumped about Friday night, already ready for Friday night. Just talk about that first game. Just is there any nervousness, or is it just excitement? I mean, I know it's excitement, but is there any nerves or anything, or just what's going through your head right now about playing Cabot Friday night?
Oh, not really nervous, but just anxious, ready to get out there. You put in all this work throughout the winter and the spring and the summer and through fall camp for nights like that. So we're playing Cabot, and they're a 7A opponent, good team out of the Central. And anytime we play those guys, it's a pretty good game. So I think it'll be a great matchup week one to see kind of what we're made of as a team. And I know that we're ready. We have all the abilities this year to go and make a deep run in the playoffs and win a state championship. So I'm looking forward. And it all starts with Friday night. And that's really all I'm focused on. I'm not too worried about anything else. We'll cross that when we get to it. We want to go 1-0, and that starts Friday night versus Cabot.
When you got offered, you were playing 7-on-7 out there with your high school team. How did 7-on-7 help you prepare for the season? Did it help you as a linebacker? How did it help you, man?
It absolutely helped me, because everybody looks at 7-on-7 and are like, oh, that's just for quarterbacks and receivers and DBs. But just from my perspective, one of the weakest parts of my game from last year was my drops. I wasn't taking very good drops. And 7-on-7, because you're kind of in the middle, it really helps you lock in and you start to focus on the little things so much more, and because you can really master it in 7-on-7. So I got so much better at drops, understanding where the quarterback's looking, mirroring him, like all that stuff helped me during 7-on-7 to translate to a Friday night whenever we're in pads. So 7-on-7 was beneficial to me for sure.
I know you're not looking down the road. You got Cabot Friday night, but the two receivers at Bentonville are going to be hogs. I mean, talk about the challenge of playing Bentonville with those kind of receivers. Because they may have the best pair of receivers in the state of Arkansas, among the best in the country.
Oh, yeah, Fayetteville versus Bentonville. I don't got to say too much about it. Everybody knows what that game means. It's always for the conference championship. So we all know what the assignment going into that game is. And those two receivers they got up there, they're pretty good, but we've got good DBs. We have two Power 5, Power 4 DBs on our team, Kendrick Williams and Birdie Jones. So I like how they match up against those two. And we'll cross it whenever we get there, but I like how we match up against those two for sure.
Jacob, you got some more?
Yeah, I'll hop back in. I was just going to say, you mentioned a couple times there just how supportive your dad's been in terms of letting you kind of run your own race, right? What does that mean to you that, he's there for you as a resource, all the above, but it really is kind of just supporting you and letting you take your own journey and kind of enjoy this process?
It's definitely the biggest part that I appreciate the most out of the whole recruiting process, just how supportive both of my parents are. Obviously, everyone knows that my dad, but my mom too. I mean, she's had such a good impact on me because she keeps me right with school. So if I'm not doing right in school or something's wrong with school, she'll get on it quick. And she teaches at FHS too. Okay. So, I mean, she's always in the know. She always knows what's going on. She'll help me out with schoolwork. She'll give me advice. So she keeps me in line with academics for sure. But having both of them to support me, I mean, it's just not everyone has that. Not everyone's lucky enough to have two parents that are putting their all into you and want the best for you. So having those two, it makes the whole process so much easier because you don't have to worry about that.
How much of a resource, film-wise, all the above, is your dad? Do you watch film with him? Do you pick his brain in terms of, finding out where you can improve and all the above?
Yes, sir. Me and him watch film every week. during the summer, we'd watch film of the team camps and whatnot, fall camp, spring ball. Like we always watch film. He'll pull up linebacker drills or like last night, for example, we were watching college football and he was like, watch the linebackers here, watch what they do. So we're always watching film. We're always making sure that we're picking up what other people are doing to try to help me. And like we'll be watching my film and he'll pull up a play that he doesn't like and he'll get up and demonstrate how it's supposed to look. And it's usually always, I mean, it's pretty accurate. So me and him, we're definitely some film heads for sure.
What do you think about the linebackers Arkansas has? It's going to be a strength of the defense this year. Xavier Sori's back. What do you think of that group for the Hogs?
Yeah, Xavier Sori, I watch him a whole lot. I like to watch his highlights. He's one of my favorite linebackers in college football to watch and kind of emulate my game after. So I definitely watch him a whole lot. And then just as far as the other linebackers are concerned, I've heard Coach T. Will talk a whole lot about them, how good he thinks they're going to be. I've heard all the hype around those guys. I know Bradley Shaw is a linebacker that's looking to do pretty good this year. So Tavion Wallace, he was like a 4-star last year that came in freshman to have an impact. So I keep up with that pretty good. And I know the linebackers, Arkansas always has good linebackers. So I'm excited to watch those guys play.
You kind of hit my next question there. You talked about the speed that you have with the 40-yard, with the 10.99 and the 100-meter, or whatever it was. Who are some linebackers, speed-wise, whatever it might be, that you look at and say, hey, I share a lot of similarities. I want to model my game after those guys?
Lawrence Taylor is definitely one because, well, obviously, I like to watch him a lot. This is kind of an old school answer, but Brian Bosworth, I watch him all the time. The Boz, he was definitely a good linebacker. And I really watch the college game now because now you're starting to kind of get away from the old traditional linebackers and start to see the more faster athletic linebackers. So Anthony Hill down in Texas, he's a linebacker that I definitely watch a lot. Harold Perkins at LSU, Whit Weeks, those two. So really just college linebackers too. I like to watch it all because every linebacker plays different. And if you can pick something that they do really well and try to add it into your own game, then you can't go wrong.
You mentioned how much help 7-on-7 was with you in terms of, improving specific aspects of your game. Where are you looking to make the biggest jump growth-wise this year in your game as a linebacker?
For me, I'm really just trying to be more of an impact player. I feel like last year I was more just kind of out there, trying not to mess it up. But with experience, you gain more confidence. So this year, I'm looking to make a lot more impact plays, get a lot more sacks, get some interceptions, force fumbles. Just stats like that is definitely something that I'm looking to chase after this year.
You mentioned going to Razorback games growing up, all the above, being around here, being around the program. Do you have a specific memory game, anything that sticks out when you think about, a game you were at or a game you were watching growing up?
I always remember Arkansas versus TCU 2016. I was watching that game with my mom. And I just remember that because that was kind of really like the first Arkansas game that I actually sat and like watched from first quarter to the end of it. And because it was such a good game, 2 overtimes, I still remember my guy Brooks Ellis getting that pick 6 in the first quarter. So that's probably the first game. And then another game I really remember is Arkansas versus Texas 2021, because that was kind of the game that got Arkansas really going again. And so that's a game that I always have good memories with too.
Otis, you got any more before we wrap up?
One quick, Will, you mentioned this, the traditional linebackers are kind, the Buckets, the Burlsworth stuff, but what is it? Is it almost where a linebacker now in college has to be almost has to be a defensive back too? I mean, because you're covering the pass so much, it's not just 3 yards in cloud of dust. You're out there covering the pass a lot. So if you feel like that's fair assessment that a linebacker's almost got to be partly defensive back too?
I mean, I would say you definitely have to have DB tendencies because you are dropping so much and you are hitting the top of your drops pretty deep. And you got to be an athlete to play linebacker. So
yeah,
I would definitely say that that's a pretty fair assessment. But you still got to have that like tough, old school mentality. And you still got to be ready to go and hit some stuff because we're run players first. So that's definitely a big emphasis you got to have. But I think that that's a fair assessment to make.
I appreciate you being on here, guy.
You going to bring the Brian Bosworth neck roll back?
Maybe not that far, but I like to have everyone rips on me because I like to have my tape all the way down. I like to have it through the hands. I don't like to wear gloves. Okay. So I'm a big tape around the wrist through the hand guy. I think Bosworth kind of, whenever I think of that, that's what I think about. So I don't know. I might get a blonde little mullet too, but no, I'm just kidding. But I definitely like looking at that old school stuff, modeling my dress. So I like it.
All right, that's all the time we have in this week's Arkansas Football Recruiting Report. Special thanks to Will for joining the show. Otis and I'll be back to talk to you next week. More Picture Show coming up on the other side of the break.
Hey.